It's crazy. Nas Daily has made videos on Hinduism, Judaism, and Buddhism covering those religions, but these are religions that are actively involved with oppressing and persecuting Muslim minorities throughout the world. Why doesn't Nas Daily call this out? He only whitewashes these religions. And what makes it sad is that he has nothing to say against this type of oppression. Let's react to his Hinduism video and point out all the inaccuracies that he makes.
I spent 1 full month studying his religion, Hinduism.
Why is this scene a garbage dump? Like, I see trash burning in the background. This is not giving the best impression of Hinduism.
Namaste. And it changed my...
There's like dogs in the background. This looks like a garbage dump. Like, is Nas Daily actually a Hindu phobe?
life. For 1 month, I read the holiest books. I talked to religious leaders and flew to India to visit the holiest site in Hinduism, here in Varanasi, where Hindus come to die.
That's very Brown River. I mean, I'm starting to think that Nas Daily is secretly a Hindu phobe. Like, there are plenty of beautiful locations in India that he could have shot, but why does he pick like a garbage dump and whatever this is?
After going so deep in Hinduism, I fell in love with Instagram.
What? Why?
Well, let me explain. Hinduism is so big. It is the world's oldest religion. It has the world's longest poem. It has millions of gods.
Look at his face. That doesn't look like the face of a guy who's taking this seriously. So, look at that.
This is a god. This is a god, and this is a goddess. This is a goddess. This is a god. This is a god. This is a god.
Oh, come on. Nas, this is Hinduphobia. This is inappropriate, Nas.
And it has billions of followers. More than 1.2 billion of them.
There are so many of us!
Sorry.
There is so much to cover in Hinduism. So I'm gonna focus on the 2 things that changed my life. The first one is called Dharma.
Yeah, again, like what is this shot? It looks like polluted slums. This is Hinduphobia. Show some other area of India. They have a lot of beautiful locations.
Hindus believe that you, me, him, her, and every single person on the planet has a dharma, a responsibility, a duty, an obligation in this world. If you are born, then you have a duty. You cannot say no to it. It's forced on you.
It's forced on you. So that's like the caste system. It's interesting that Nas Daily in other videos talks about the importance of freedom and choice and keep your religion to yourself. Don't impose anything on anyone. Don't force your religion on others. But here, Dharma is forced on you. He emphasizes, it's forced.
For example, if you have a good voice, then your duty is to sing because of your natural abilities. I cannot sing, so my dharma is not to be a singer. It's to make these Instagram videos. This is what I was born to do. If you can teach, your dharma is to be a teacher. If you can heal, your dharma is to be a doctor. If you have charisma, your dharma is to be a politician. Everyone has a dharma, and it is different for each person.
Yeah, he's whitewashing dharma. Dharma, it means caste duty, what you're required to do because of the caste that you're born into. So if you don't know the caste system, you have these levels. The highest level is the Brahmin class, so the priestly class, the Kshatriyas, who are the rulers, the administrators, and the warriors, the Vaishyas, who are the tradesmen, the artisans, farmers, and then the Shudras, who are the manual laborers. They're at the bottom. And then you have the untouchables, the Dalits. And they're street cleaners. They do menial tasks. So this is the dharma. This is your duty and it's forced on you, as Nas Daily so eloquently put it. So you have no choice. You have to fulfill these responsibilities based on the caste that you're born into.
Dharma is that which uplifts life, that supports life, and that sustains life. Anyone who does 100% what they believe in, and that's life supporting, that doesn't bring pain and suffering to others, then that is their dharma.
The caste system is also known as the Varna system, and Varna means color, and it began in 1500 BCE when there was an Aryan invasion. So you had these Indo-Europeans who invaded the subcontinent, and they enslaved and conquered the dark-skinned Dravidians and the Indian natives. So they imposed this caste system that the dark-skinned would serve the white-skinned, the light-skinned Aryans, and this is the origin of Hinduism in the subcontinent. So the Shudras and the Dalits, they weren't actually considered to be Hindus. In fact, Hinduism restricts the Shudras and Dalits and tells them they can't enter temples, they can't read the Vedas. So this is a very oppressive system, and it's being whitewashed by this kind of neo-Hinduism. Oh yeah, and this guy looks familiar. Where have I seen this guy before?
Oh Allah the Almighty.
This concept changed my life. I started asking myself, what is my dharma in this world? What is my duty? What am I born to do? I must do it before I die.
So I guess, what if Nas Daily discovered that he's supposed to be a Dalit? He's supposed to be a street cleaner. That's his dharma, not making Instagram videos. So this is his video log, day 3,426, still picking up trash. Nas Daily's dharma.
Hindus believe the world is in balance if and only if we follow our dharma. Otherwise, the world is in trouble. You have to follow your duty no matter the result.
Yeah, so these Hindu texts, ancient Hindu texts, Vedic texts, treat the Shudras and the Dalits as subhuman. They're not allowed to study religious texts. And the majority of India's population, even today, are these two lower castes. And originally, as I mentioned, it's based on light skin versus dark skin. But since the lower castes were basically treated as slaves, servants, sex slaves, then the upper castes slowly started to get darker and darker skin. But it's a color system. And unfortunately, this kind of caste racism exists to this day. And we see all kinds of examples in the news of caste violence, Dalits being lynched, Shudras being lynched by upper castes. And then you can see this racism problem when it comes to the popularity of whitening creams like Fair and Lovely. And this was reported on the BBC. Can renaming a fairness cream stop colorism? They have this major problem in India. And the BBC is reporting that consumer giant Unilever says it will rebrand its best-selling skin lightening cream Fair and Lovely and drop the word fair from its name. While the news has been welcomed, campaigners say the move doesn't go far enough. And in India, demand for such products show no sign of waning. So you have Indian activists, usually coming from the lower castes, who are campaigning against this type of racism that's rampant in, unfortunately, India. But, you know, we have to be fair because, unfortunately, we do have racist preference for lighter skin that affects some Muslim countries as well. So this is wrong. Let's be perfectly fair. It's not just Indians. It's not just Hinduism. But we have to make a distinction because the difference is in Islam, preferring skin color, lighter skin color over black, this is jahiliyyah. This is ignorance, and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has explicitly called it out in many authentic hadith, this kind of preference for lighter skin or skin color. But the caste system and the preference for the Indo-European Aryan race, that is a part of traditional Hinduism. So there's a big difference here. And we can prove this by looking at some of these Hindu texts. So Gautama Sutra chapter 7, a Shudra who intentionally reviles twice-born men, meaning the three higher castes, the Brahmin, the Kshatriya, and the Vaishyas, by criminal abuse or criminally assaults them with blows, shall be deprived of the limb with which he offends. So you're going to get amputated if you're a lower caste and you disrespect or commit any kind of abuse towards the higher castes. If he has criminal intercourse with an Aryan woman, his organ shall be cut off and all his property is confiscated. So very severe consequence. If the woman had a protector, he shall be executed after having undergone the punishments prescribed above. So he's getting his organs lopped off and then he gets executed. Now, if he listens intentionally to a recitation of the Veda, the holy texts, his ears shall be filled with molten tin. So this is basically torture just for hearing the Vedas. If he recites the Vedic text, his tongue shall be cut out. If he remembers them, his body shall be split in twain. If he assumes a position equal to that of a twice-born man in sitting, in lying down, in conversation, or on the road, he shall undergo corporal punishment. So this is like very severe apartheid system, keeping lower castes down. But this is the traditional holy texts of Hinduism. Many texts describe these kinds of punishments. You also see similar laws in the Manusmriti and other texts. Now, obviously, today, most Hindus are embarrassed about this, and they will denounce these practices. So we have to be fair and not paint all Hindus with the same brush. But nonetheless, this is a part of what the vast majority of pre-modern Hindus consider to be Hinduism, traditional Hinduism, which is the caste system.
Here is an example. There was a guru sitting by the Ganga River. He saw a scorpion drowning in the water. So he saved it, but then it stung him. It fell back in the water. So he saved it again. It stung him again. His friend asked him, "Why do you keep saving the scorpion? It will only sting you." The guru replied,
The scorpion's dharma is to sting, and this is what it's born to do. My dharma is to save, and this is what I'll continue to do.
Yeah, you're going to die from scorpion stings. Again, this is just whitewashing the caste system. Caste is based on reincarnation. So people are reborn based on karma. So if they do a good deed, their karma goes up and they're born into a higher caste. If they do bad deeds or they don't follow their dharma, their caste role, then they will be reborn in the next life as a lower caste, or maybe even an animal like a lizard or frog or ant or roach. So violating your dharma is a very bad thing. So if you're a Shudra or you're a Dalit and you're like a street cleaner or a toilet cleaner, you have to be accepting of this dharma and don't even try to do anything else. It's your duty. It's forced on you to follow your dharma. If you do try to do something else and you don't follow your dharma, then you're going to get lower karma and then you're going to be reborn in a lower state, or you might even be put into this kind of hell state for a while before being reborn. So we can look at some of the texts in the Skanda Purana. We read, the Sudras who become antagonistic to those Brahmins who were honored by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva go to Raurava hell. So this is a hell area that they will go to for violating their dharma. So this is Hinduism. Your moral and spiritual worth is tied to your caste. Lower castes deserve to suffer a humiliating life of poverty because they're only born as Shudra or Dalit because they didn't follow Dharma in their past lives. And the upper caste deserve to have an enjoyable life and rule over the lower caste because they follow Dharma in past lives. So what's bizarre is that Naz Daily is implying that one's Dharma is like your individual interests or talents, like making videos or singing. But the reality in Hinduism is that your Dharma is determined by caste that you're born into. You don't have a choice over it. So this is like a whitewashing of Hinduism. This is not actually Hinduism. This is some kind of neo-Hinduism that has been meshed with liberalism and modern human rights. This is not actually traditional Hinduism as represented by the classical Hindu texts.
Even if we get stung, even if we get hurt, even if people don't appreciate us, we must continue to do our duty in this world, no matter the result.
Yeah. Keep doing your duty, Nas. Your dharma is to clean those streets.
A few years ago, I almost quit making videos because I was just hurt. I was hurt by some responses. I was hurt by some online comments. And I was like, you're not worth it. I'm not going to make these videos because you're not appreciating them. But now I realize it actually doesn't matter what the comments are. What matters is I'm making these videos because that's my duty. That's my responsibility. And that is such a big realization that I got from understanding dharma in Hinduism.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Hinduism. You inspired Nas to continue making videos. This is a great contribution to Hinduism, from Hinduism.
Finding your personal dharma will give you unlimited energy, drive, and passion.
You have to have the passion and the drive to be a Dalit, to do your duty.
In Hinduism, it is said it's better to strive in one's own dharma rather than succeed in another's dharma.
And here is the most beautiful part of Hinduism. There is a duty that is above all. A duty that we all have to do. If you're short, if you're tall, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're smart, if you're not. And that duty is called ahimsa. And it means
Non-violence.
no violence. Not to humans, not to animals, not to anyone.
And when I say non-violence, it is not an action. Non-violence should be in your mind.
And my mind's violence becomes my body's violence.
Definitely.
This is also whitewashing. So violence, it depends on the caste. So if non-violence is good if you're a Brahmin, like a priestly class, but if you're Kshatriya class, that's the warrior class. Or the ruling class or the administrative class. So you have to engage in violence. Your dharma is to be a warrior or a police officer. So you have to engage in violence. You have to wage war or impose laws. And the Bhagavad Gita also has praises this type of distinction. Like these distinctions are coming from this very, the most popular Hindu text, the Gita. So
is so important in Hinduism that Gandhi himself said non-violence is common to all religions, but it has found the highest expression and application in Hinduism.
So again, Hinduism encourages violence. It even encourages war. The Kshatriya class caste has to conquer, that this is an aspiration. They have to aspire to conquer the entire world. And a conquering king is known as the Chakravartin. This is the conquering king who uses conquest to spread dharma, and he subjects all the nations to Hindu rule and the caste system. And this is just repeating what the Indo-Aryans did when they conquered India and they subjugated the Dravidians. So some Hindus, apologists will say, well, if this is actually the teachings of Hinduism, then why didn't Hindus engage in conquest outside of India? And this can be explained very easily. The problem was that the Hindu conquests were limited because of an ignorance of geography. And this is again reflected in traditional Hindu religious texts. According to these texts, the earth sits atop 4 elephants standing on the back of a turtle. Past Hindus believe that the part of the earth inhabited by humans is limited to India, which is understood to be a big triangle-shaped island called Jambudvipa. Most of the past Hindu kings sought to conquer the world by conquering just this island, but their ignorance of geography is one of the main reasons why Indian kings rarely conquered anything outside of India. So it's not because they didn't want to, they just didn't know about anything that existed beyond this island. And again, this is reflected in their traditional texts.
Ahimsa is the reason why so many Indians are vegetarian, because they don't want to harm the animals.
Vegetarian!
Check this out. Hundreds of vegetarian options without a single animal killed. And that's really the concept of ahimsa, non-violence to anybody.
So if I eat falafel, then I'm practicing ahimsa. Tamiya. Yeah, because you might be eating a reincarnated relative who violated caste duty. That's why, you practice ahimsa and you don't eat meat, because you might be eating a relative from a past life, who's been reincarnated as a chicken or a cow. So don't eat meat for that reason.
Some take it to the next level in Jainism that they don't even eat potatoes because uprooting a potato is a form of violence.
Oof, that's really violent. Look at that. They even left the shovel in there to rub it in. Look at that potato suffering. So this is an inaccuracy as well. Jainism is not a form of Hinduism. Ancient Hinduism had a lot of violence. They had a lot of animal sacrifice that you can read about in the Vedas. You also had Purushameva, which is human sacrifice. You have Ashvameva, which if you don't know by now, involves a dead horse, actually suffocating a horse. If you don't know what Ashvameva is, check out Genius of Islam episode 3, or check out my debate that I had with myself and a Hindu, and we talk a lot about Ashvameva. So the ancient Hindu Vedic practices involved a lot of killing of animals and even human beings. Then you had Jainism come along and Buddhism, and they're the religions that originate ahimsa and this non-violence, and later Hindus just copied it and adopted it, but it's not actually original to ancient Hinduism.
In Hinduism, if you have to cut a tree, you have to ask forgiveness from the tree and promise the tree, I will plant 5 of your same kind.
And you do this here.
Yeah.
It is our highest duty not to cause harm. It is my duty as a human not to kill animals. That's why I'm vegetarian.
Yeah, so if he's going to be consistent, he should also not eat potatoes. Those potatoes shouldn't be killed by a violent shovel, by violent, these French fries that you're eating. You're causing a lot of suffering and death. And the thing is that ahimsa, this is not really, it sounds good, like he's trying to present it like, oh, don't harm anything. But if you actually practice non-harming of anything, then look at Jainism and their monks. They would go, these monks, and completely cover their mouths with a covering. Why? Because what if a fly accidentally flies into your mouth? So you're harming the fly. So you need to keep your mouth covered. The monks would also carry brooms with them. And as they walked, they would brush the ground in front of them, because what if you accidentally step on an ant or a worm and you kill it? That's harm. So you have a moral duty to brush in front of you with a broom in order to prevent the harming of insects. And then what about bacteria? Bacteria is life too. Anytime you touch anything, or even your immune system is constantly killing bacteria and living things. So this is all violence. So the only solution is to just completely fast. Don't eat anything. Don't eat any kind of plant. Don't eat any kind of animal until you die from this. And this was actually the practice of the founder of Jainism, Mahavira, and he fasted until death. And this is in Jainism called Salikhana. So if Naz Daily wants to be consistent, he wants to practice ahimsa, the perfect form of nonviolence, as Gandhi said, then he needs to actually do salikhana. This is the practice of this kind of fast. Obviously, I'm not encouraging anyone to harm themselves, but I'm talking about a religious belief and a religious practice found within traditional Jainism.
You might be a Muslim, you might be a Hindu, you might be anyone. Non-violence is for everyone. And if you are violent, you are a part of this nature, it will make you pay.
We can't hurt nature because in Hinduism, we are one
Don't eat
with
potatoes.
nature.
Hindus believe
Don't eat those potatoes. Don't eat carrots.
and the birds were not three. We are one. We come from the same energy.
Is that like shredded cheese? What is he feeding these birds? So I don't get it. The birds will eat fish. These seagulls, they'll eat fish. They'll eat bugs. You have predators throughout the animal kingdom that will eat other animals. So they can do it. And that's nature, but we can't do it. But we can't eat those animals. Okay, I don't really follow that logic.
You are truly liberated when you love your mother, your friend, your enemy, and your dog equally.
Nani?
So your dog and your mom are equal. Love them equally. Your mom, if you have a pet iguana, if you have You know, you see a squirrel on the street, you know, love the squirrel equally with your mom and your children. You know, that's the wisdom. It's deep, really deep wisdom here. I don't think you guys are appreciating the wisdom of loving the squirrel on the tree the same as you love your mom. I mean, this is, and your children, this is, you know, up your game, up your knowledge level.
On Hinduism, it is very clear that learn to see everyone equally. That is the heart of it.
That is the heart of Hinduism.
Yeah, that is.
Learn to see everybody equally.
Yeah, learn to love everyone equally. That's really the message of Hinduism. That's why Muslims in India are getting lynched constantly, being sexually assaulted constantly for things like taking a banana. We can see the non-violence here. So
you don't need to be a Hindu to believe this. I am a Muslim and I love these concepts. So, you're a kafir.
You're a kafir.
I love the idea that I am on this planet to bring people together, to follow my dharma by making these videos and building this company without any violence.
100% vegetarian.
And right here, near the holiest site in Hinduism.
look at his face. I think poor Naz might be being held hostage or something. He does not look like a happy person.
Where people come to die and move on to the next life. I hope you understand dharma and ahimsa. The power of following your duty and the power of staying non-violent.
In Hinduism, a life well lived is a life where you follow and do your duty. And I wonder, did these people find their karma?
I hope they did. Otherwise, they're going to be reincarnated as frogs and insects or Dalits. So I hope.
Before they move on to the next one.
So, before you die, do you know what your dharma is?
Are
And
you an untouchable?
are you going to follow it?
Better.
See you next month for a video about atheism.
And I hope people understand is that there is beauty in every religion. There's beauty in Islam that I think you can see. There's beauty in Hinduism that I just learned how to see. There's a beauty in everything. You just gotta open your mind to it. And remember, we are all one.
Yeah. All religions are basically the same if you inaccurately portray them and you only focus on things that match with kind of liberal values like equality, freedom of choice, everyone needs to be friends, and love everyone. Yeah, if you portray all religions as basically that, then yeah, all religions are the same. So his presentation of all these religions is like this. He's just focusing on whitewashing them so that only those liberal values shine through, while he ignores, all these other practices that are found in traditional Hinduism that are discussed in the texts. If you go and talk to a Hindu 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago and say, oh, the most important thing as a Hindu is ahimsa and dharma, which means finding your personal path, that Hindu won't even understand or recognize what you're talking about. So what about these practices like sati, ashvamedha, the horse sacrifice involving this kind of necrophilic act between the horse and a woman, purushamedha, the human sacrifice, devadasis, child temple prostitution that the British colonizers had to ban because so many Hindu temples had these child prostitutes in the temple working. You have shivling worship, which if you don't know what that is, check out my debate with a Hindu where we talk a lot about, worshiping the penis of these gods. So yeah, Naz Daily didn't talk about any of these practices, any of these kinds of beliefs. He has to distort and misrepresent. And that's how you can say, oh, well, all religions are the same. I believe in Islam. I believe in Hinduism. I believe in Judaism. You have to kind of whitewash it all. And this is dishonest. So I hope maybe in the future, Naz Daily will put out an accurate video about Hinduism and talk about Ashvamedha. Wouldn't that be something? So I hope you liked the reaction and you learned a lot. I'll catch you on the next one, inshallah.